This week on ANN, educators and scientists affirm creation during a 10-day Faith and Science conference.
The United Kingdom sees its first Adventist Religious Liberty Festival.
And an Ivy League professor and medical school dean are appointed honorary associate directors for Adventist Health Ministries.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, hundreds of educators and scientists reaffirmed the biblical worldview of origins last week during a 10-day science conference. The International Conference on the Bible and Science, held in the U.S. state of Utah, aimed to build the faith of Adventist educators and equip them with scientific evidence that supports creation.
In this conference, we had hoped that our group would come together and we could examine the issues in a way that is informed and also faith-affirming. And so that's one of the things to bring scholars together and discuss the issues. We'd like people to know what the issues are, what the nature of the evidence is, and how a person of faith can relate to those issues.
During the conference, attendees traveled to the Grand Canyon in the U.S. state of Arizona to see how the biblical flood formed this national site. At the end of the conference, attendees approved a statement that affirmed how the Bible presents a reliable account of a literal six-day creation and a global flood. Adventist World Church President Ted Wilson shared why the belief of creation is so significant to the Church's theology.
This particular subject, biblical creation, is so vital to the Seventh-day Adventist faith, to its origins, and to our future. Everything is intermingled in terms of theology and also how we understand God's great creative work.
The Adventist Church in Britain recently held its first Religious Liberty Festival to provide an overview of religious freedom worldwide. More than 2,000 people attended the Free to Worship Festival at the Bethel Convention Center in West Bromwich, England. During his keynote address, U.S. Senate Chaplain Barry Black emphasized that religious worship must lead to action. Church leaders, members of parliament, local officials, and representatives from other religious faiths also attended the festival. Dwayne Leslie shares some of the key themes that were discussed during the event.
This festival really highlighted the importance of understanding what's happening beyond your borders. Why, even though you have religious freedom in your own country, it's important to know what's happening all over the world, because just as you read the papers, people are being tortured and persecuted every single day for their faith. And as people of faith ourselves, we have to stand up to protect the rights of religious minorities, and we have to speak out. And that was one of the key themes that came through in the conference.
The Health Ministries Department recently appointed 2 honorary associate directors to offer consulting, to deliver speeches, and to represent the denomination to other organizations. Dr. Albert Rees, Distinguished Professor and Dean of the University of Maryland School of Medicine, and David Williams, Professor of Public Health at Harvard University, were approved as Health Ministry Advisors earlier this month by the Church's World Headquarters. Health Ministries Director Dr. Peter Landless said both Rees and Williams were selected for their spiritual commitment and support of the department's work through evidence-based health principles.
For more than a decade, August 19 has been set aside by the United Nations as World Humanitarian Day. This is a time to commemorate volunteers who've lost their lives in service and to celebrate the spirit that inspires humanitarian work. In honor of Humanitarian Day, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency highlighted the work of volunteers around the world who go above and beyond the call of duty.
The significance of volunteers to ADRA is very critical. We have more than 6,000 employees within ADRA, plus a lot of thousands of volunteers, and without this help and support, it would be very difficult for ADRA to reach out to those hundreds of thousands of people that we assist on a yearly basis.
A Pathfinder group travelling from the Oshkosh International Camporee last week faced an unexpected danger on the road when their bus caught on fire. The members of Holloway Pathfinder Club from England were on their way to the US state of Georgia when a tyre blew and started the fire. Fortunately, no one was hurt. One laptop was damaged and some luggage was ruined. Another Pathfinder group that was also travelling from the camporee saw the Holloway Club and transported the Pathfinders and the remaining luggage to another location. The Holloway Club was given another vehicle for the remainder of their American tour, and they praised God for travelling mercies.
A social media trend has swept the United States in an effort to raise money and awareness for a debilitating disease. The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge has led thousands of people across the country to dump ice water on their heads and donate money for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. ALS is the progressive degeneration that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord, which eventually leads to death. Many Adventists throughout the country have taken up the challenge for the cause, including Adventist World Church President Ted Wilson and his wife Nancy.
We feel that this is such a worthy cause. We're proud of our young people who are getting involved and bringing an awareness of this despicable disease to people around them. But rather than have the ice water thrown over our heads, we thought it might be more beneficial if we actually write a check and send it in.
What do you think, Garrett? Are you up for that?
No.
No. Not even if they provided a bucket here in the studio?
No, that's okay. You know, you can either donate money or take the challenge. And many people take the challenge and donate money. I think I would just make a contribution.
Easier to write the check.
That's right.
And finally in the news this week, the church in the inter-European region recently acquired a historic landmark for the church. The Tramelin Chapel in the canton of Bern in Switzerland is regarded as the first Adventist church in Europe. The Adventist Church's co-founder Ellen G. White spoke at the chapel's opening dedication in 1886. The Tramelin Chapel was considered the cradle of the Adventist movement in Europe, according to Gustave Roth, whose family financed the construction of the chapel and later sold the property. Even though the building was consecrated as a church, it never officially belonged to the Adventist organization. The goal of the purchase was to provide inspiration and encouragement through a representation of the church's humble beginnings. Galina Stelly shared the historical significance of this purchase.
I believe it's very significant that the church bought the property and it now under its name. And I also think that it shows that the church values the contribution of its pioneers and also its legacy. And I believe that this little chapel will serve as an inspiration to the present and future generations. As human beings, we tend to forget, but we cannot move successfully into the future unless we remember, treasure, and learn from our past.
You know, Bettina, I serve on the board of the Adventist Heritage Ministries, and we're so excited about this acquisition. It's going to make a real difference for many, many people to see the historic beginnings of the church.
Absolutely.
Coming up, find out if it's really possible to break a habit in less than a minute.
It all started in a small upper room with humble, fervent prayer. Threatened by the authorities and banned from preaching, the church prayed, and two men witnessed with great power and grace. And people prayed everywhere, in one accord, in repentance, with confession and humility. The lives of people were changed. Two men started out on a missionary journey that would turn the world as they knew it upside down. And the message went out to the world beyond. Corporate prayer helped a prisoner escape. A king requested that his people fast and pray, and the enemy was defeated. A battle won without the need to fight. Through a faithful servant and a young queen's faith and courage, a people were saved. Stories in the Bible showing the power of united prayer.
Welcome back. Learn how just 20 seconds can determine whether or not you'll start a new habit or activity for this month's feature from Vibrant Life magazine.
Can you break a bad habit or start a healthy one in only 20 seconds? Well, maybe. In the latest issue of Vibrant Life, we talk about the do's and don'ts of making a healthy change. I guess we all have a little habit we'd like to delete or a good habit we want to boot up, and one strategy that can help us is the 20-second rule. Sean Achor, author of The Happiness Advantage, says the rule is based on our gravitation toward activities that are easy to get started. The rule says that if we can start a new habit or activity in less than 20 seconds, that we will be more likely to follow through. For example, Achor wanted to learn to play the guitar, but he was having trouble making himself practice. Then he purchased a guitar stand, and it caused him to triple his practice time. What made the change? The 20 seconds it had taken him to go to the closet and get the guitar out of the case was a barrier that prevented him from practicing. On the reverse, you can use the rule to set up barriers to help you kick bad habits. Achor removed the batteries from his TV remote and placed them in a drawer a 20-second walk away from the remote. The hassle of getting the batteries and putting them in the remote helped him cut way down on his TV time. What 20 seconds may be standing in the way of your success? Is there something you would be more likely to do if it was easier to get started? For example, how about just sleeping in your gym clothes if you're planning an early morning workout? That small change may prompt you to slip on those shoes and go. I encourage you to subscribe to Vibrant Life magazine and discover more ways to make positive changes in your life.
While most people read the Bible with their eyes, many understand the Bible with their ears or fingers. Learn more about the Bible in Braille in this month's report from Christian Record Services for the Blind.
Christian Record Service for the Blind, the official Seventh-day Adventist Church ministry to people who are blind or visually impaired, offers free Bibles upon request. Complete Bibles are available in audio, large print, and Braille. Braille Bible sets, available in up to 19 volumes, are expensive to purchase. They can also weigh up to 80 pounds, making them difficult to store and use. Because of ongoing client requests, Christian Record has started the production of portions of the Bible in Braille. To learn more and to request portions of the Bible in Braille, visit crsb.org.
Life has its many challenges and obstacles, and Pastor Robert Quintana wants you to know that you have an anchor in Jesus who promises to be with you when life gets tough.
When I first started the sport of archery, I could hardly hit the target until someone taught me that you need anchor points in order to hit the bullseye. Let me ask you a question. Are you going through a difficult time in life right now? I mean, really difficult. Maybe you're going through a divorce, you've been diagnosed with an illness. Are you searching for an anchor that can get you through these difficult times? A really difficult time in my life was when I lost my father a few years ago. It was a really hard time for me and my family. But I have to say that the one thing that got me through was being anchored in Christ. I remember doing two things. One, I expressed myself to God. I talked with Him. I shared with Him what was in my heart and what was in my mind. The other thing I did was I went through the many promises that we find in His love letter to us, the Bible. I don't know what you might be going through right now, but I do know this, that you have a friend, and His name is Jesus. He is with you every step of this journey that you're on. If you remain anchored in Him, He will give you peace. He will give you strength. And with Him, you will hit the mark every time.
And now let's take a trip into a slot canyon in the US state of Utah with Guide magazine columnist Rich Aguilera for this month's Kids Nature feature.
Hi, I'm Rich Aguilera, and today I'm in Utah. I'm glad you've joined me because I'm on my way to visit a slot canyon. The only thing is that it's a little off the beaten path.
We finally made it to the slot canyon. Let's go in, come on. Wow, what an amazing place.
Slot canyons are another one of God's marvels in nature. They are formed by erosion when water cuts through this canyon. These canyons are unique because they can be very narrow, but also very deep. In a place like this, you just feel like walking and soaking in God's incredible nature. Remember, if you want to get to know God better, study His artwork.
Still ahead, understanding the difference between mobile apps and mobile websites.
But up next, see what treasures can be found on the Italian island of Sicily.
I pray for that when I was going to my hands got cold, and sometimes God just does it without even having to ask Him. When I pray every day, I pray for thank you for giving us food and help other people have shelter and make them not hungry and help them find food and give them a house and all that kind of stuff.
When I was much younger, in elementary school, there was a school that was just down the street that my parents wanted to enroll myself as well as my siblings in. And they went to enroll us in the school that was fairly close, and were told that they had enough persons that looked like us in the school and that we needed to go to a different school because they were only going to take so many of us. And then we went to the school that was a greater distance away. It impacted me so much to understand and realize that someone else was telling me what I could and could not do and where I could be educated or not educated, just simply because of what I looked like, the color of my skin, knowing nothing about my character, knowing nothing about my person. So at that point, it let me know that there's got to be a better way, and there must be something that can be done to assist other persons in my situation.
Welcome back. For this month's report from the Geoscience Research Institute, Tim Standish reflects on the Apostle Paul's mission in Italy.
Walking in an open area like this in Sicily is a fascinating experience. It seems like you can look just about anywhere and find potsherds like this one here. These potsherds tell us all sorts of things about the past. We can date them on the basis of the rims and other characteristics that they have, and they tell us when certain things occurred on this island. Probably the greatest thing in the history of the island of Sicily was the landing of Paul at the city of Syracuse in southeastern Sicily. I'm near the city of Salemi in the northwest, and by tradition, the 3 days that Paul spent on this island resulted in the planting of the seed of truth, and the truth of Christianity spread across the island all the way here to the other side. Archaeologists can look at potsherds and graves, buildings and mosaics, and see evidence of the arrival of Christianity in this region. What the world needs today is something like the visit of Paul to this island. That seed of truth needs to be planted, and it needs to spread from person to person across every nation, every continent, every island on the face of this earth. If that happens, this world will be a different and far better place.
For the fourth in a 7-part series, Chip Dizard shares 3 ways your church can jumpstart its mobile strategy.
As mobile continues to rapidly gain ground, 2 main channels are being used to spread information: mobile apps and mobile sites. Both are accessed via smartphone or tablet. The difference between the two have left many confused. A mobile app is an independent piece of software downloaded to the smartphone, which runs natively with a file structure embedded in the smartphone's operating system. Here's a non-techie translation. It gives people the ability to quickly access information anywhere, regardless of data connection, as the app becomes a part of the smartphone. A mobile site is an adaptation of a desktop website optimized for smartphones and tablets and can be accessed via URL on a mobile browser. Here's a non-techie translation. A simplified version of a desktop website only found through a mobile internet browser. Here are 3 ways to jumpstart your church's mobile strategy. Number 1, dive in. Rather than holding off because going mobile sounds intimidating, just take the initial plunge. Mobile can be an exciting, new, and great channel if used correctly, but you'll never know until you start. Consider making your site mobile responsive. A well-designed, responsive mobile website is crucial to your church success. A responsive site gives the user the best possible experience and limits the number of touches in resizing and scrolling. If your visitors are constantly accessing your content, or you want to increase engagement with your content, consider a mobile app. Repeated engagement is a key phrase when deciding whether or not a mobile app is a necessity. Mobile is here to stay, and this is truly a tech trend that churches need to master.
Now here's a good question. Are the rates of divorce within the Adventist Church really just as high as in the general population? Willie and Elaine Oliver discuss this question for this month's Family Ministry feature.
Often when people speak about marriage in the context of the church, there is a tendency to overgeneralize and to suggest that the rate of divorce in the church is as high as the rate of divorce in the general population. The truth is that that is not so. And of course, when we talk about the church, we're talking about the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I reference a study that was conducted recently for Adventist families in North America. And what we do know, based on that study, is that it's about 25%. And if you look at it in different ways, it can go up as high as 27%. But invariably, people say it's as high as the rate of divorce in the population, general population. In the United States, that rate has been about 50%. It's come down to about 40%, and sometimes it's even a little lower than that. The reality is the rate of divorce in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, at least based on the North American study, is that the divorce rate in the church is much lower than the general population.
That is such great news, because I think it makes people feel a little bit more positive about marriage. And what we do know from a lot of the research is that most couples can enjoy a satisfying relationship. So in marriage, we want to not focus so much on the divorce rate, but focus on how we can have a great marriage. What we do know is that most couples are in what we call good enough marriages. In fact, many couples who divorce were in good enough marriages,
yes,
meaning they could have done a little bit more.
Be more patient?
Be more kind, be more loving. You know, if we just employed the principles of 1 Corinthians 13, we would have happy and successful marriages.
And now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, missionaries established the first Adventist church in Sweden.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On August 27, 1991, Bolivia Adventist University officially opened. It had 231 students. Today, it has an enrollment of over 1,300. On August 28, 1880, the Danish-American pioneer missionary to Scandinavia, John G. Matteson, together with two Norwegian Adventists, Jonas Persson Rosquist and Olaf Jonsson, organized the first Seventh-day Adventist church in Sweden at Grehittehed, with a membership of 45. From August 29 through September 2 in 1951, the North American division held its first ever Congress of Lay Leaders. Delegates from churches across North America received training and participated in workshops on methods of soul winning. One important outcome came just over 2 months later, when a campaign of 4,237 lay evangelistic meetings was launched across the United States and Canada. On August 30, 1846, James White and Ellen Harmon were married by a justice of the peace in the city of Portland, Maine, having known each other for around 1 year. On August 30 in 1895, on its fourth voyage, the mission ship Pitcairn landed Pastor Edward Hilliard, his wife Ida, and their 2-year-old daughter Alta in Tonga. The Hilliards were the first Adventist missionaries to the island nation of Tonga. 9 years later, also on August 30, but in 1904, an American coal porter, Thomas H. Davis, arrived in the city of Guayaquil with his family. He was the first Adventist worker in the country of Ecuador. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook and Twitter. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide and find links to more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News or Twitter/Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from Psalm chapter 34, verses 18 and 19. The passage says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. The righteous person faces many troubles, but the Lord comes to the rescue each time."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.